Let me say a special good morning to our listeners via Classic Radio. Good morning, whether you listen 105.5 or 105.9. Good Monday morning. What about, of course, GBN television viewers? Good morning. Wherever you're viewing us from, good morning. I guess you know the channels that you view on, so I don't need to mention. So, good morning and welcome to another edition of To The Point. What about our social media audience? I cannot leave you off. So, let me say good morning to those of you via our Facebook page, our YouTube channels. What about GBN's webpage? Good morning and welcome to another edition of To The Point. Some of you may be thinking it's Monday. What's happening? My co-host is not next to me. Well, he's actually with me this morning, but from a remote location, I would say. Let's go over and say good morning to Mr. McIntyre. Mr. McIntyre, good morning and welcome, sir.
Hey, GT, good morning to you. A wonderful morning to you, Monday morning. And let me take the opportunity to say good morning to our hosts, our listeners, wherever they are, our followers. And I think yesterday I was interacting with another guy, and he said he's an ardent listener to our program on Monday morning. So it's really a pleasure for us to be here, for me to be here, bringing this program to all those who would like to hear that. Yeah, man.
All right, man. Well, welcome once again. You at a remote location this morning, not in studio, but thank God that of course, technology is able to get us to do this program, and you not being available. Now, a lot's been happening in terms of from last week to this week in terms of weather conditions and so forth. Tell us, we're going to have a kind of general conversation today. We're not going to stick on one particular point if we can, if for some reason a particular, of course, point comes up, but our topic, I should say, comes up. But let's generalize the conversation this morning. Let's kick it off this morning with weather conditions. Tell me what's been taking place lately with that.
Yeah, but what I want to say specific to that is that weather should not have been a surprise to all of us. Again, we want to say hats off to the Met Office. They did send out early meteorological information, and I think we had sufficient time to expect the tropical wave that affected us over the weekend. It brought some wind, it had some water, and as a result of that, we saw quite a number of landslides and flooding across Grenada. There were a few reported incidences, and I'm hoping that NADMA could probably relate to that sometime later on. But there were actually some injuries that were reported unofficially. There was flooding in at least one of the areas. I was happy to drive through the River Road area myself to have seen some of the works that was undertaken at that bridge at the St. John's River. There was some adjustment that was done to that river with some reinforcement walls, etc. So I personally wanted to see how it was going to be tested and reacted to that situation. Well, congratulations. I think it held up, it served its purpose, but there were a few things I am sure that were identified. Personally, I saw some limitations and some weaknesses and something that could be done to better remedy that situation in the River Road area. But again, some of the landslides that were reported, there was at least one house and two persons that got injured in one of the houses. Because one of my friends on the ground called me and, sent me videos and showed me some of the things that were happening. And in one of those videos, there was actually a young lady and a child that was injured. And the gentleman was reporting that there was a bone sticking out. And it brought back the reality of some of the things that we were saying. How many persons at home or in homes, business places, or otherwise do really take heed to the information that we give about first aid? And how aggressive or intense are we in ensuring that more families understand first aid applications? And that bone sticking out simply indicated that there was a serious fracture that needed some level of stabilization. The guy was panicking. The other people, I'm sure, were also panicking because there was nobody who actually knew what to do. So I would want to just pause for here a bit. Maybe you want to chime in terms of what information may have come in from other persons and how people interacted with what happened over the weekend.
Well, most of the info that you shared, I have viewed some via the folks sending me those information and those videos also. Well, I do live in the River Road area also, and I would, of course, back you by saying yes, the wall did serve its purpose. The upper part where I do live, there was not much affected. Did get some backing up of the water from the drains though, that came into my yard and stuff like that. But besides that, there was no major issue to see. Well, like a worry pertaining to the water. In most, as actually you said, you came through more to the lower part where the work is not completed as yet. They were affected. But the upper area where the walls were completed, we would say, well, thanks for the walls done. And even though, as you said, there are some limitations in it, you understand, but it's still better than it was before. Having that magnitude of water, you should have, what the end result would usually be, especially from the upper areas in terms of the wall was not there. I would say that.
Right. There's another issue regarding the flooding incidences in some of the area that I really want to commend. I want to commend also the RGPF in terms of ensuring that diversion to traffic was done at the time when people were placed at least inconvenience. But it also identified other issues that some of the areas that we spoke about in our previous conversations about risk reduction and information regarding prone areas to particular vulnerabilities or hazards. And what we wish to see a bit more, areas that are prone to land slippage or rock falls, we mentioned that signage and so forth indicating to persons, if you are entering this area, these are some of the things you should look for. And so we are still hoping that could be improved, because there are some areas that people know where stones will fall. But visitors and people who are not, actually used to traversing that area, they end up getting trapped because these things show up. We're hoping that in the not too distant future, that the vulnerable areas, they could be really mapped so that with people, as you move from point A to Z, you can prepare yourselves to deal with it. In addition to all of that, I am not sure that the average citizen prepares him or herself sufficiently for the rainy season. I'm not even saying hurricane season. Do you have a cutlass or a machete in your vehicle? Do you actually have a first aid kit? Do you have a shovel or a spade that you can move something around? Do you actually have gloves and other things that you can protect yourself as you move around? And the weather actually caught some people off guard. Even persons, promoters who intended to have had shows and so on. How do you prepare for situations like these, where in the middle of a show there is insistent torrential rain on the outside? How do you inform your patrons? How do you provide some level of support for them? Do you have raincoats? Do you provide umbrellas that can take people in and out safely to battle the weather? So it is really all-round readiness for the hurricane season, and we wish that we can see more people getting involved, more people taking steps to ensure that they have things. Additionally, there were things that people were not able to access. The Saturday morning, the vegetables, the provision, and so forth. And roads access were limited. Some people ran out of stocks. Others were rushing to the supermarket because, for lack of the information that they did not follow, thought that it probably was going to be a tropical storm or hurricane or something. So they too were doing rush shopping and buying. It leads back to the same point, that if you're least prepared or you're not adequately prepared, it will bring across some level of anxiety and panic. So within what we call the hurricane season, it's known people should have some stuff that at least if something happened, you are self-sustained for a given period of time. It's a couple of days so that you don't have to rush in panic to the supermarkets to get something that you did not get earlier on. Yeah.
All right. There was a level of some forewarning pertaining to the condition that we experienced on Saturday morning. So folks sort of knew what we would expect. Maybe not to the extent, but we were told that was going to come. Now, Sylvan, what would you say from someone who has been a part of the situation like this before? I don't think we can stop reiterating to individuals that the do's and don'ts when it comes around to when a situation like that arises. If you want to read, maybe just a small reminder for individuals, what are some of the do's and don'ts when situation arises like that, especially the conditions? What do folks should do, things they should have. You did mention some already, but there's also that critical thing that individuals should have, especially let's say maybe knowing your shelters and so forth, just in case the situation gets to a point where you have to leave from where you live and where you're living and so forth. Tell us about some of that folks could, of course, do.
Yeah, man, I'm really happy that you brought that up because part of the time I was on the road, I actually went to my garden during the rains and so forth, but I had some level of preparedness. I had some level of preparation in terms of the kind of clothes I needed to wear to go to the mountain. But when I got back to the house, there were some things that showed up. Some areas that I never saw water come through before, it showed up. And some places where water never passed before around the house, it did. The point I'm making here is that it's an opportunity for people to recheck how ready you are in terms of your own facilities. Remember we said earlier on during the season, or it should be almost an all-round activity or practice. Understand where you live. That area that we spoke about where the rock came down, my question would be, was a vulnerability assessment done? And I'm using the word vulnerability because it sounds like a big word, but it simply means trying to identify where you live and what around you could affect you. Do people actually look around and see to themselves, you know what? My house is built close to a water course. If the water gets beyond a certain level, will it take away a portion of the land or will it affect my house? I'm living at the bottom of this hill. Are there stones up there that can come down? I'm living here in an area where when it rains, sometimes the land slip away. So am I exposed to that? And what do I need to do? Are the drains sufficient around my house? And if the water comes at a certain level, would it cause my house to flood? If water comes into my home, will I lose important equipment? Will I lose documents, etc.? And we did actually see that happening. People lost important documents because water came in places where it normally would not have. So the drips and the other things that came in caused people to be inconvenient. So what we're seeing is that it is very, very good to ensure that your important documents, or documents even if you don't think that they're important, have sealed, airtight plastic bags that you can save and not lose those documents. Water, when it rains, the catchment areas, the turbidity becomes at a level where people sometimes cannot use the water immediately. So what you need to do, ensure that you have clean, covered containers that you can keep water for a period of time that can be used thereafter. We would have seen that water was shut out in some areas and people were, again, scratching around as to how am I going to get potable water to use. NAWASA didn't tell us that they were going to cut the water off. Well, NAWASA cannot always give the information before some things happen. Some things in some areas may show up when they did not have the information themselves. So it makes good sense for people to ensure that at least during hurricane season that you have buckets, you have containers that you can secure. So these are some basic things, again, that we want to remind people that you need to have. I mentioned first aid kit. One doesn't have to be a first aider. You don't have to be a paramedic or a doctor to have something in your home in case somebody gets injured that you can treat them. Have regular pieces of gauze, elastoplast for small cuts, other covering that people can use to put on wounds, etc. And if you understand that there is somebody in the house that has a particular medical condition, ensure that at least there's an extra supply. You can ask the doctor whether or not you should double prescribe for the medication that the person might need. There are persons who may have conditions like asthma, etc., and you want to ensure that the inhalers are not expired or they are malfunctioning or otherwise. You want to ensure that these things, you check on them, that if you have certain injuries or other things that you can really, really react appropriately.
All right.
That kind of a response, it saves time, it saves life, it saves equipment, it saves assets, etc.
All right. Sylvan, we drew for a break. Let's take a break. We come back, we chit-chat some more. When we come back, I still want us to diverge some more information, especially the level of preparedness as we enter the season, hurricane season, rainy season, as we will call it regularly here in Grenada, our level of preparedness when we come back after the break. Good morning once again to all those of you viewing To The Point. When we say good morning to, of course, our Facebook viewers, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We come in, surely be back after the break. Stay with us, folks.
Campesh, new from...
Welcome to the SMC's Crescendo to Grenada's Panorama 2023. And you see pan business, that is we business.
My name is Andrea Isdale. I am 21 years old and I am from St. Paul's. For me, playing pan was like second nature because like any other community-based organization, when you grow up seeing your parents do something, it's natural for you to want to do it. So it wasn't a choice, it wasn't a decision. It was just a natural thing that I knew that I actually had to do. So it was no choice. At the pan yard we have on Thursdays is our in-house pan yard liming day. So we have different things. So tonight is our cricket night. We have games night. We try to bring in persons to speak, to have motivational nights, to get players more inspired and wanting to play the pan more and to have a greater love for the pan. So that's some of the things that we do. It's definitely okay to come and see us practice. We always put on a show, whether it's practice or performance or a gig. Our days for practice are Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m.
More chances to multiply your Playway winnings by adding Multi-X to your regular Playway bets to win up to 5 times more. Imagine winning as much as $1,200 instead of $240 with a $10 Playway bet by simply adding Multi-X. Place your Playway bets from $1 to $10 or in increments on your favorite Playway symbols or numbers. Then add the Multi-X option at the same value to win 2 times, 3 times, 5 times more. Or free plays. With Multi-X, you must bet the same amount wagered on your regular Playway bets for your winnings to be multiplied. Grenadians, value your dreams and win your way as much as 5 times more. With Multi-X added to Playway and watch your money grow. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
Hey, welcome back to our listeners and viewers once again. It's Monday, the 17th day of July within the year 2023. It's the Monday edition of To The Point. And with me this morning, Mr. Sylvan McIntyre, as usually like to say, my co-host with me on Monday morning. And he's with me this morning, not directly in studio. He's at the remote location, but suddenly is able to join me. So, welcome back to The Point. You know, before when we were about to take the break, I did mention to you, a key word around this time of the year is preparedness, and we can't stop, telling the folks out there about the level of preparedness they should have. And, the lack of it could lead, the lack of you being prepared as an individual or individuals out there could lead to the loss of life, lead to the loss of your personal property and so forth. And, we want to eliminate that. And something you spoke about when you were speaking, you did say, folks should know their vulnerabilities, where you live. Should I have built my house there knowing the vulnerability of the area that I live in? Is there rocks above my house? And do I think it's because nothing has happened for me living there for 10 years? Doesn't mean, we know the level of climate change and where it's been lately, the heat we've been experiencing, the soils are dry, which means when it gets the water, what's going to happen these days. So, preparedness is a key word here. Now, I don't know how deep you can go in terms of giving some information in terms of preparedness, to our listening and viewing audience this morning, Sylvan.
So, thank you again, GT. I think maybe one of the things we should do, a good focus is always to focus on the youth. It is often said that the youth happen to be our future, which is quite true. Mm-hmm. But to me, the youth find themselves being enticed in other things, and sometimes people blame us of not finding more innovative ways in terms of getting the information across. So what you find is the average person who sometimes listen to the information that we share are maybe people who are of a particular age, maybe people who are inclined to different kinds of things. And so maybe in our preparedness activities, we will probably need to be more diverse, be more innovative, and I guess create the forum where people can get more information. I think as a state, we probably need to become wider in terms of the medium of disseminating information. Maybe we may have to end up during the carnival season, attend some of the Spice Mass Corporation activities, and in the middle of those activities, divulge information relative to preparedness.
I agree.
It may sound as something that people may smile or laugh at, but I think we just need to get information across, because my understanding through my experience is that information saves lives. The lack of it creates panic and anxiety, and it leads to stress-related issues that sometimes brings on deeper illnesses that people did not really care for or really did not look forward to. So expanding on the levels of readiness and preparedness. One of the things that worked well over this last weekend was the information sharing medium. Whether it was used effectively or appropriately is another question, but one of the things that came to me when that rockfall situation was reported, somebody took a video and they sent it over to somebody else who could have gotten the information, maybe to somebody who could have helped. That is critical. And I think we need to be cultured a bit differently in terms of how we disseminate and share information that is relevant. And the reason why we share, there should be a positive look forward outcome, where if you share something, you are hoping that assistance will be brought to somebody. That gentleman who shared the information about what happened, he was saying he wished that somebody or anybody who's hearing this information can really reach out to send some help to that area. So on the aspect of communication, I think every individual in Grenada, technically everybody in the household may have a phone, even more than one phone. But is it used for the best purpose, or is it used when it is required most? So what we think people need to do is to revise the medium of communication, figure out who you need to call, who are the closest person that I can speak to that can render some help. What is the NADMA system of help within that area? What is the police contact within that area? What's the nearest medical or health facility that is able to render some help if I need it? And very often people don't have these numbers at hand. People may have numbers of everything else, and maybe everybody else hooked up somewhere or saved in their phone. But the medical and security response people who might be able to render some help, their numbers are sometimes hidden somewhere or non-existent. So that's one of the things that we need to upbeat. In terms of maintaining that level of communication, how do we do that? Do we want to just depend on the electricity, or should we say we should have backup power through generators, have additional batteries, and now emphasize on solar generated energy? Once the sun is out, once outside gets placed somewhere, you may not get the amount of energy radiating or coming from the sun, but solar things are activated from as little of the sunlight that they can get. So we would want to say that, or emphasize that solar energy generated communication equipment is a very, very good option. We think about vehicles and transportation. Very often people don't think that, or don't know or understand that your battery can go at any time. There is some good innovations that are there today. There are these booster packs that people can buy. I don't think they are very expensive, and especially the automatic vehicles, when they shut off during times of water that may enter those electrical distribution points that will shut vehicles down, you would need some level of energy generation as quickly as you could. So a booster pack or a power pack is always good to have in a vehicle as an added means of ensuring that, one, you can get some level of communication because you can hook up to that vehicle, and two, you can get a vehicle to move from point A to Z if for some reason the battery gets shut down at a time when you did not expect it to happen. The other thing that people would need to ensure that they do, we spoke about even the water. But again, water may not be potable, or in some instances, there might be threat of diseases. Did you know that even the bleach that you use for laundry, that a couple drops of that in a gallon of water can create some level of purification? Yes, it could. You don't have to always depend on the chlorinated water from the official source, but there are water purification tablets that people can have access to. You can buy them at the pharmacy. And in addition to that, if you don't have purification tablets, just the 2 drops of water in a gallon, bleach, in a gallon of water, that can help to create some level of purification. It may not taste the way you would normally have it, but actually you can guarantee that it would not be as dangerous than if you just picked it up, pulled it from somewhere, and try to use it.
All right. So, but I also want to talk to you about the issue of timely response, especially from the authorities. You know, from time to time when these incidents do occur, you know, roadways are blocked for a period of time, you know, and so forth. What kind of advice would you like to throw, especially to the authority, from a personal point of view, in terms of timely response? You know, that would help to, you know, to ease or get back a level of normalcy when a situation like that arises.
Yeah. So I will give you a broad, like I often do, answer to this question. Hear what? The authorities may not always be best positioned to respond at the time they really should. They may not always have the resources, the kind of resources to respond to the situation how they should. But hear what? If we are able to build stronger communities, if we are able to resource communities to become more resilient, the response time and the reaction to the situation will definitely be increased. I remember when we started these programs, we emphasized community resilience, building community emergency response team, and so on, ensuring that people within communities, they understand what to do. This recent situation brought out, again, the reality of community readiness. People tend to depend too much on the resources that comes from the state mechanism. And sometimes they are overwhelmed. They may not be in a position to attend to cases and situations at a time when it is most needed. It may take half an hour from Guelph to Sates in a situation that might be sort of adverse. Under normal circumstances, maybe 10, 15 minutes. If there are persons positioned between Maran and Guelph itself and Victoria, this response time would be cut down by at least 10, 15, 20 minutes. So the point I'm trying to make here, we must move to the point where at least every constituency, let me just broaden it to say constituency, not so much communities. I'm hoping that we might be able to get to that point. But if we start, at least to say that we balance our political constituencies around country, ensuring that there's a response mechanism set up. And I do not mean just a few persons that may have an idea and want to do things. I am speaking of people who can access training, understand the right thing that they need to do, how they need to do it, the time in which they need to do it, and that the system recognizes their efforts and continue to support them that they are able to give response. So in a nutshell, the response to situation, sometimes to the fire department, to the police, to the health, it is not very often justified because they themselves might be overwhelmed. So if I have to lay the blame to any issue, if I have to look back at where some support should come from, I am saying as a country, as a state, we need to ensure through a formal mechanism that communities are resourced. And as I said, starting from a constituency level, as we build offices, we set up outlets, postal stations or other places, communication network systems across country. I think the emergency response system is one that we should emphasize around country, that we must ensure that there is an entire inventory of the technical resources that exist, the equipment needed and the equipment available, and the people who are there that can respond to the situation and to deal with it. Right. So the bottom line here is not the central mechanism so much. But what we have positioned a wrong country that is able to help in a situation when it is most needed.
Sylvan, I would also like to ask you this. We have been through Hurricane Ivan, we had Hurricane Emily, and various storm conditions that has affected us from time to time over the years. In your humble opinion, have you seen a level of improvement in terms of how we as Grenadians go about preparing ourselves? Still come back to the level of preparedness, our level of response. How have you seen any improvement in that taking place over the years, and from Ivan to the stage that we at now? In your personal opinion?
Yes, and thank you for asking me of my personal opinion. There was one time I boasted of our Build Back Better. There was one time I boasted of our being greater resilient. There was one time I was very happy that we were building and we were implementing lessons learned. It is seeming as though with the passage of time that the attitude of complacency is beginning to step back. And regrettably, the people with the technical knowledge and experience, unavoidably, without intent, these people are diminishing by reason of debt, unavailability, or people migrating. Some means the older people who came through Hurricane Janet, I think it was in 1955, most of them, they can't recall what may have happened, and most of them may not be with us today. We've had Hurricane Ivan in 2004, and the people that have attained those kind of institutional memory and the experience, they too are getting to the point where they may not be able to use that information or that experience that they have. But how well have we built that capacity around us, and how well have we provided information for people to take up? On the other hand, has effort been made to provide that information, and was it really accepted? Or are people really adopting and adjusting and accepting the information that they get related to preparedness? So if you ask me again, I would say I am not seeing enough in terms of what we should be doing, how we should be reacting, and how we should be responding to situation. What we can say at the state mechanism, we know a lot of things have been done different. A lot of instruments have been generated. A lot of policies, a lot of plans have been written. But in terms of individual preparedness, we are still too reactive. We are still waiting for something to happen, and so we can respond to it. The information that we are giving via this medium, every Monday that we speak about particular things that need to happen, we need to see a more aggressive approach to it. We spoke about road safety months ago in terms of something that we should really see happening, little movement. We spoke about some risk and some hazard-prone areas where signs should be implemented, little movement. We spoke about the traffic safety signs that need to be enhanced, need to be more conspicuous, need to be in more places. We're not seeing many of those happening. We understand the rock fall areas, the landslide areas, and so we said that signs should be erected in those areas, informing people, not a lot. So in terms of our movements and our culture, in terms of dealing with hazards, we are at a 50-50 mark in terms of being best prepared and not prepared. So again, I did give you a long-winded, and forgive me, I sometimes need to do that because within the answers, within the response, I need to give context in which I think people would more understand that there's a lot more we need to do in showcasing our level of readiness. And readiness is not just about looking nice. It is what we do to prevent loss of life, degradation of properties, including the environment. If we learn to take a holistic way of preparing ourselves, meaning it starts from individual, it goes into homes and family, it goes into society, and then goes into parish and state mechanism, we can say, satisfy me. that I can say I'm happy that I'm comfortable that we are prepared for any or most eventuality. At this point, I'm not sure we are.
All right. I know sometimes that short response is not always from you, Sylvan, so I understand when you take a bit of time and explain it in detail. We do have someone online who wants to, of course, share some information with us this morning. I'm not sure. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning to you, sir, and morning to Mr. McIntyre.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Mr.
sir.
McIntyre, I mean, I recognize the voice. I mean, I can't remember. But what I will say, I did several training with you, and you're a man that with a lot of knowledge.
Yes. Yeah.
And what we all have to learn from the people before and build on what now. One thing I learned from my granny, she told me already that she'll take 6 months of sun, but not 1 month of rain. Rain is much more dangerous than the sun. She could fight up with the sun, but not the rain. Okay, what you was explaining about the constituency office, this is why I say we will go back because we don't have a proper public works department, right? So we should have a public works department that's set up, that understands a lot of the things of Grenada. Right now, we don't have going to have a public works department with plenty heavy equipment. They're supposed to have more training center to train people to do, as you say, in the communities and the constituency. But what they could do is now, Grenada now, all over Grenada is situated with some heavy equipment company, construction company. Yeah. So what the government should do is to liaise with these guys and say, okay, you in Guav, you in this Sotes, you in Granach, you in Pueblo, you in this area, let's work with us. So anytime there's a disaster or something, we'll get to you and you will start moving in that area because you living in that area, your company is in that area. Right, and then what I want to say is, the people that building roads now, I think they're not interested in widening roads. All they're doing is just surface business, and they're not doing any maintenance, right? For instance, where I live, I don't know if you're familiar with this place called, most of us know it as Guangkai, but the real name is Grand High. Grand High is the name of the place, but from ever since the people there, I think it's pronunciation, they call it Grand Kai. So I live in one of the entrance of the Grand High Road. I built a wall, cost me $43,000 a couple years ago. I have to save water that coming from Grand High to damage that wall. Look, you know the size of a pillar. So I had to pull a pillar, 3 pillars on the line of the road so it don't come down directly on me. I did that. Yeah. Well, for over the time now, because they've surfaced the road, it passed the side of the pillar now, and even the last resurfacing they had to take some of the asphalt and build an edge so it don't come down on me. So you see, these are the things, the engineers, we have to have people, not your government, say they have one ministry of infrastructure and they giving contract. Now, what I learned from in the old public works department, all the other days, and I do it right now. In my area, once I see the rain start, I get my water boots, and I get my raincoat and I'm ready. I get in my van and I start patrolling to see what the water is doing, where it's going, where it should exit. Yeah. I learned that from elders, the old public works department. When you see these kind of things, these men not in office, they outside checking. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. All right. Sylvan,
I've kind of been you drew for a break?
We drew for a break, we drew for a break. We should take it, and we come back, and now we get some. I see more folks are calling in, but we drew for a break. Let's take it for a few minutes.
And I really have a response I want to give to some of the things that this caller said, and I would have 5 minutes after that before I need to move from my location. So we'll take the break. Yes, thank you, and we'll be right back. All right?
Okay.
At the NIS, our team proudly works to support the evolving needs of Grenadians. We have made some changes to our operations and want to keep you informed. Firstly, we are happy to introduce the new unemployment benefit. This benefit will provide an insured person with 50% of his or her former income in the case of sudden unemployment. To support this benefit and other benefits we offer, it was necessary to increase the contribution rate. The contribution rate will increase gradually each year until it reaches 16% in 2031. As always, the contribution will be split between you and your employer. The pensionable age will also increase from 60 to 65 years. This increase will also be gradually reaching age 65 in 2029. Pensioners will continue to be eligible for a pension from age 60, but will receive a reduced payment. The NIS recognizes that the prices of basic customer goods are increasing globally. Therefore, we are happy to also increase the weekly minimum pension payment by 25%. Finally, we have adjusted our survivor's benefit payment to a percentage of the age pension minimum. Widows, widowers, and dependent parents will receive 100% or $58 weekly, while children will receive 50% or $29 weekly of the deceased's pension. We are here to make the transition to these new changes as clear and simple as possible. If you have any questions on how these changes impact you and your family, please contact our new informational hotline at 440-6647 or visit www.nisgrenada.org. Thank you for allowing us to be your social security provider.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. Those of you via social media platforms, good morning. Those of you especially via our Facebook page, good morning. Sylvan, welcome back. We have limited time with us this morning, but you promised to share some information on the last caller.
Yeah.
If you can certainly go ahead and do that.
I really wish to support the other caller in some of the things that she said in terms of the infrastructure works undertaken, and I think we have spoken about this before, but I'm saying this with a passion because we're continuing to see works undertaken, and they're not seemingly supervised properly, or the engineers are not understanding the conditions under which they are supposed to build particular roads. I look at that bypass road at the airport in terms of even the drains that they are created. And do you understand, if you look at it, the siding of those drains is about 6 to 8 inches high, and the runoff from the road to the side of the drain is about the same amount, 4 to 6 inches wide. Is that adequate to take the volume of water from particular areas off the road onto the side? What we are seeing in a lot of places that lead to landslides is the inadequate, insufficient, not wide enough, not deep enough drainage for some of those areas that leads to erosion, and sometimes they lead to serious landslides. Eventually, it causes serious injuries. So I wish to say that we need to be able to see a more rigorous, proper engineering process when contracts and other works are undertaken where our public is expected to access. There must be some level of verification, except the engineers that we know who are assigned to supervise these work. They understand for themselves that that's the level of work that is required. But if you ask other engineers who are supposed to understand differently, they would tell you that some of these things leaves a lot to be desired in terms of what is undertaken, how it is undertaken, where it is undertaken, and whether or not the quality of work is undertaken or given for the money that is expended or budgeted for those kinds of activities that are currently undertaken. I really needed to input that because I am not happy with what I'm seeing with some of the undertaking, especially in our roadways, especially with drainage, retaining walls, and all of these things are concerned. They lead to other things that could be very devastating for our conditions later on.
All right. Sylvan, I'm not sure if you're ready to kaput, run out on me this morning, but if you do, I want to thank you. If you're still around for a few minutes.
I will listen to comments from a few more callers before I depart in 5 minutes.
Okay. We have another call online. I guess we lost that caller there. 435-2041, 435-2041. And give you that opportunity if you like to call in and make a contribution this morning towards our conversation. Good morning to you, caller. Welcome.
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, sir.
Mr. McIntyre, you know what is the problem? Is the planning division. People people are supposed to build houses and structures at a distance from the main road. They do not.
Yes.
They build right up on the edge of the road. So how could we widen our road? How could we put drains and culverts? That's the problem, you know. The plan and the vision is not looking into this matter when they give permission to build houses or whatever structure on the property. They go right up to the edge of the main road. I've seen that happen. Look at the cemetery area. You can't widen the cemetery. Could you widen the cemetery road? Graves are right in the road. Please. Fantastic.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contributions there. 435-2041, 435-2041. Let's go back to the phone line. Let's say good morning to the caller. Caller, you're welcome. Good morning.
Yeah, morning, GT, and morning, Mr. McIntyre. I want to support a lot of what he said earlier in terms of the role of the community and so on. These are the things I've been clamoring for years. And we, unless and I usually used to use the Cuban model. Although people say, well, that is not a free state and so on, but we see how the Cubans have been able to save life in spite of the embargo and everything that against them. And we could learn that, you know, so that everybody knows their role. You know, when this system comes, for instance, look at what happened last Friday. Lucy, and I want to give you a little blows on that, not negative blows, but you had the anniversary of Emily. And no mention was made about Emily on Friday. In terms of
that totally slipped me. That totally slipped me. My apology.
I mean, in terms of connecting with, you know, because Emily was a kind of experience we had, and if we had a job where a system coming, we should sort of make the connection. So, but I think, in all honesty, we need to have more conversation. The limited time we have on, say, on Monday is not enough because there's so many things. I could talk to a lot about Mr. McIntyre speak about, and even the first caller. So we need to really, and also to implement the application of the law. Too much lawlessness in this place. But we also have to admit, over the last few years, there has been a concerted effort to destroy a lot of things going on, including the public work and the role of the public work. So that even now, the government may want to do something, but they don't have the equipment because we have dismantled the public work. And public work is an institution we should, regardless of how you call it, is an institution we should have minimum tools and facility to assist in any situation. We don't have that. But more important, we need to begin to galvanize our people to understand that we are all responsible for our own safety and also collectively in others' safety, and hence we need to work community-wise. I've been preaching that for thy kingdom come. I don't think we're getting it because, and I want to strongly agree with Mr. McIntyre that it seems as though with the passage of time, although there was a tendency after Hurricane Ivan to do things that is right, we have gone back in maybe worse than 2004. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution there. 435.
I want to chime in before I leave.
Yes.
So once again, let me just say thank you for having me on the program this morning. A few notes. My empathy to the suicide situations that we are experiencing, but my comment on this is that we need to see more actions than words. We need to see our state and our societal mechanism becoming more involved in the preventative measures of ensuring that these things do not happen. I wish to also say, in terms of our national readiness, the impacts our cemeteries are having on our road and access ways, Grenada it is time that we show dignity to our loved ones who lose their lives. We must now create a state cemetery, particularly in the St. George's area, where our people can be laid to rest respectfully, and people can pay honor to them over the years by getting into an area that is conducive to do so. And we must not repeat the redigging and the encroaching of our roadways. Finally, we need to see a more consistent road and infrastructure maintenance process. We are too reactive in these situations. It is leading to more expense, environmental degradation, mass inconvenience to our citizens. We need to be able to see a more continuous process of engineering, environmental, and and other forms of protection for our infrastructure. Once again, I thank everyone for listening. I have to move on to our next point. My pleasure always.
Sylvan, thank you so much. Have yourself a great day and all the best.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Of course, thank you, Mr. Sylvan McIntyre. We still continue to entertain your phone calls, 435-2041. You still have that opportunity to chime in on our conversation with which myself and Mr. Sylvan McIntyre were speaking about. Feel free to give me that call. Let's go to the phone line. Let's see if we have a caller there. No, we don't have a call there. 435-2041. Approximately 10 minutes left on today's program. Feel free to give me that call. If you do have a bit of concern in terms of the conversation that we were having this morning, in terms of our preparedness, and so forth, and our response and so forth, you feel free to give me that call. Let's go to the phone line.
Hello.
Caller, good morning, welcome.
Hello.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Yeah. I always listen to programs that you and other men like you are having on the GBN. And every time I listen, the majority of the same thing coming up. In fact, I've said already, most of us read the books and we have the knowledge in our head, but we cannot reproduce what we read and put it into reality. And I've talked about this already. For example, I talk about the money-less slippage. Imagine you have to reassess the sum because of poor assessment and possible poor engineers. In fact, I said, you mean we couldn't get 2 or 3 engineers to put their head in one? That something better should have been done. Now, too, we have to reassess the cost of these things. So these things are bothering me. Now, Mr. Intyre, I'm using the word seems to be a reality man. But something always bothers me that people who seems to be a reality people, when they are placed in particular positions, they do not do what they are supposed to do. And when they're out of the situation, they are now doing it and complaining about it. I am a man. I call a spade, and a fact a fact. I wouldn't call a spade a fact. What we have to do is to do what we are assigned to do. And once we do it, even people who started to hate us, when we come and we do the right thing, they would come and like us. Politicians must get people who are within the range to do what they are, well, not what they are capable, what should be done, what they are capable of doing. Because some of us are capable of doing only from A to B and not from A to Z. So these are the things we have to watch when we're selecting people. Please don't select people because they say they are, I'm for you, because they're dragging you down too. Everybody else have complained to. You look at the side of the road, people put in things where they sell over drains all over the country. I talked also about we have planning our roads or planning out about planning for houses and so on. Yet for all, these houses are built. People driving your motor car, motor vehicle, and you're meeting a hump in the road. In other words, the entrance to the person's home. We have to carry out these things irrespective of if people like you or not. After a time, they will get to like you, no? They will be in need. I can say very much more.
All right, thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
You have the right to put things in the right perspective and forget about who voted for you. Once the country is built, everybody would like it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning. 435-2041, 435-2041. Let me say good morning to Zephyrin. Zephyrin, good morning. Thank you so much for, of course, viewing or listening from your location. Good morning to you, caller. Welcome.
Yes, good morning, GT.
Good morning to you.
I'm wondering about the big stone that came down because I heard somebody, a voice that sounded as, somebody up in age on a phone-in program saying since they were growing up, they knew knew that stone was a menace. So, because they used to go for mangoes, and the people used to tell them, pick up your mangoes fast and move. In the old colonial days, they used to chain big stones that look like, they would come down and cause problems and so. And that is a very long time ago. It was said that the one that came down in Kotomele was chained and left there, and the chained, through the passage of time, rust and so, and the stone broke away. Now is modern time. We need to see now a modern approach.
Yes.
To making these things safer, to take care of these things, okay?
Yeah, and it went back to my statement to Mr. McIntyre earlier on people in terms of your level of preparedness and your vulnerability. Sometimes think you're the area that you're going to build, you're vulnerable to things happening where stones are going to roll down and so forth. Should you have built there? You understand?
Well, yes, that is true too. We don't look at around, up and down and around. We don't look too at where we are going to build. Because in Barbados some time ago, a house went down in a sinkhole. Mm-hmm. Now here in Grenada, there is information that up by PBC up there.
The old fort area?
Yes, there is underground tunnel that connected the forts. Okay? Mm-hmm. And Mr. Jessamy has a lot of information on that. So, it is said that during the revolution, people used to pass below the road to go. I don't know if that is true. They used to pass to go from Fort George to Fort Frederick under the road. So, which means that we have, that kind of problem watching us.
Yes.
So we need to take all these things seriously. When you go to purchase piece of land to build, you need to, sometimes they don't purchase it too, they get it by, young generations and whatnot, but you need to really examine it. But again, I'm asking the government to take a serious approach, a very serious approach, and a modern approach now at making the place safer.
All right.
Yeah?
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. So much. Thank you so much. 4352041. We have approximately 3 minutes left on today's program. We may be able to accommodate one caller. If this caller do contribute really quickly, then we could probably entertain another. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Yes, morning. Sorry to come back, but just on Mr. McIntyre observation, I am not really an engineer, but I passed on that road where they're doing by the airport there, and I was surprised. And then I run right through, and I have to stop and talk to some of those workers. I say, look, these things I see going on this road, you are Grenadians. You all have to take in interest of what's going on in Grenada and see that the thing do right. Because I work with a company in Grenada here, and they also told us that we are going, but you all Grenadians doing the work. But we are spending the money, so you all have to make sure that it's gone because you all have to live with it. I told them they have to seek interest. The man told me, what? We talking about it, but the engineers in Grenada and the other people, they have something going on, so they're not taking on what we are doing. I even look at a simple thing. You're developing. Look, you have a monument and the first monument at the bottom of the road. Then you have a monument on the top of the hill up there. Maybe a pedestrian crossing line across the road from that monument, and then you take it right up with a sidewalk to meet that other one, so visitors and people can walk there. That is one of the simple things. And there's a lot even in entrance. Instead of they put a big culvert or a big drain, they just put 2 pieces of heavy iron there, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution. I want to thank everyone who contributed to today's program, those who stayed home and you viewed, and probably ideas came to your mind, but you did not call in or participated in that way. We certainly want to thank you for having the interest. And those of you who contributed, whether it was by the Facebook page, I'm seeing lots of comments there this morning, and I didn't get a chance to read most of them, so my apology for that. And I want to thank Sylvan, even though Sylvan is at a remote location this morning, and he had to leave us a bit earlier than usual. Once again, thanks to all who contributed to today's program. Have yourself a great day. Be safe, and be good to yourself and others. Have yourself a good one. That's when we come to the end of today's program of To The Point. Goodbye.